We just discussed the warm-up and the attendance check from Monday and Tuesday. And we talked about the difference between an equation and an expression. So what is the best definition to write down? A definition that we can all understand. What is an equation? So an equation is a math sentence with an equals. That's the biggest definition. To be an equation, it has to have an equals in it. But in order to have an equals in it, you have to have one value is equal to another. And notice how I threw in the word value. So what does that mean? So it's a math sentence with an equals, but it usually contains the equals, but we often have what we call variables. Okay, so I'm throwing in another vocabulary word. What is a variable? Well, a variable is simply an unknown. Like an apple. In the example that we looked at, an apple plus an apple equals 30. So at first appearance, we didn't know what the apple was, what the value of the apple was, but we were able to figure it out because of the fact that it was set up as an equation. So a variable is an unknown, but in math, we use letters to represent variables, like X, Y, or Z. But it's more than just an equal and variable. There's also numbers involved, but also we have operations involved. So what are operations? Well, that goes back to the basics of arithmetic. Your operations is addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. So what is an equation? It's a math sentence that contains an equals. It contains variables. It contains numbers. And it contains operations. It's a math sentence that is divided by an equals that contains an expression that contains two expressions. So what is an expression? Well, an expression could be as simple as an apple. Really don't want to draw it. So we'll call the apple X plus another apple plus another apple. That's an expression. Notice how there's no equals there. But a lot of times we like to simplify our expressions. So because I have three x's here, x plus x plus x, let's just call it 3x. Now, what happens when I put two expressions together? So when I put two expressions together, separated by an equals, that is what we have, that is what we call an equation. So apple plus apple equals 10, or 3x equals 10. Sorry, that wasn't 10. I'm jumping ahead of myself here. Apple plus apple was 30. Jumping ahead because I am giving you the value of an apple. Well, let's just turn that 10 into a 30. So 3x equals 30, which means x has a value of 10. Now, what does it mean to solve? Well, to solve an equation means to find the value of x. Okay, in this equation here, x was 10. So what about this equation? What is the value of x? 2x plus 4 equals negative 10. Okay, so this one's a little bit harder. We've got the variables, we've got the operations, we've got the numbers. So 2 times what plus 4 is negative 10? Well, this is one that I really can't just do in my head. So what do we do to find the value of x? Well, we work backwards. You see, to solve an equation, you always want to undo what was done before. So the first thing I need to undo is that plus 4. How am I going to undo it? Simple. I'm going to subtract 4 from each side. So now I've got to say, what is negative 10 and negative 4? Negative 10 and negative 4 is negative 14. The 4's cancel out, leaving me with the 2x. Now, remember, when you've got a number and a variable side by side, they're glued together by multiplication. So how do I undo multiplication? What's the opposite? Division. So negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. So now I know the value of x is negative 7. So if I go back and I plug in, I can do a check to see if I'm right. Is 2 times negative 7 plus 4 equal to negative 10? Okay, well 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. Negative 14 plus 4 is indeed negative 10. So it checks out. So what about one like this? Notice in this one how we just have one expression on this side. What happens when I've got an expression over here, an expression over here, an x over here, and an x over here? Notice how this is not that easy to solve. Notice how we can't just do it in 2 steps. So that's where the solving equation process comes into play. So we are going to be looking at problems very similar to this and learning how to solve these complicated equations.